To talk about your report that you have just released. It's just come out, and I was interested to read that you do acknowledge that there is a common belief that there is a correlation between trade openness and income inequality, and your DG has said that it is fashionable to think that trade and the WTO are bad for poor countries. Trade does have an image problem these days, doesn't it?
I mean, that's certainly why we wrote the report, to really, clarify the relationship between trade and inclusiveness. And there's really two dimensions. There's the between-country dimension, so the question how much trade can help individual countries benefit, and there's the within-country dimension, how much can trade help people. And overall, trade has an excellent track record. It helped lift hundreds of millions of people out of poverty, reducing the disparity between low and high income countries. So that part has, I think, worked out really, really well. And, the remaining question is then what about trade and what about trade and within country inequality?
Mm-hmm. And as we said in our introduction, the report emphasises that trade has helped reduce global poverty, but that many regions, especially in Africa and Latin America, have not fully benefited. What can be done for these regions to become more integrated? And, how is trade with China central for creating shared prosperity for these regions?
Well, so the report identifies two main trade-related risk factors that are leaving some economies behind when it comes to international trade. One is simply insufficient integration into international trade, and the other one is an excessive dependence on commodity exports. And I think for both of these risk factors, if you want to overcome them, you need a comprehensive policy, one that combines open trade with complementary domestic policies. So take trade integration. Yes, it's important to reduce import tariffs. Yes, it's important to implement trade facilitation measures, but you also need the physical infrastructure, for example, because if you don't have any roads that take the goods to the ports, you also won't be able to take advantage of the low import tariffs. And China, is really a great example of how to make this work, because China has benefited tremendously from export-oriented growth, and as a result, really reduced poverty dramatically in the country.
And your report does mention that climate change poses a risk to economic convergence. How can global trade policies be adapted to mitigate these risks, especially for those vulnerable economies?
Well, so the good news, first of all, is that trade is really part of the solution when it comes to climate change. There's really huge environmental gains to be had from countries specializing according to their environmental comparative advantage for specializing in sectors in which they're relatively green at. And this is also, I think, where it becomes an opportunity for development, because, for example, if you're a commodity oriented exporter and you want to diversify out of, or you want to move up the value chain, I think really knowing where your environmental comparative advantage is can really help. And again, this is going to need supportive trade policies, but it's also going to need supportive domestic policies, for example, that help you attract foreign direct investment.
Ralph, it's really good to get your thoughts on your report today. Thank you very much for being with us here on CGTN. That's Ralph Ossa, Chief Economist at the World Trade Organization.